2012 was a great year for women. Barack Obama was reelected, which means that by extension we got another 4 years of the lovely, highly educated and sophisticated Michelle Obama. Malala Yousafzai really opened up the narrative on how women in Pakistan were being treated when she was assaulted for going to school. And by assaulted, I mean shot in the head. A record high of 20 women were elected to Congress that year. And the 2012 London Olympics saw 45% of its participants be female.
So long, sad times, go long, bad times, we are rid of you.
So with all of this astounding growth and achievement for women, I looked to each and every one of them individually and collectively as an example of what I could be. Psych, I'm joking. I went to VH1 and watched Love and Hip Hop Atlanta because that's the same year that it debuted. And what a damn debut it was. We were introduced to the likes of Stevie J, Mama D, Little Scrappy, who was, I guess, technically being reintroduced to the public. K. Benzino! As a franchise outside of K. Michelle and outside of people that were already famous, and like Love and Hip Hop is more so like their fall off as opposed to their come up. Aside from K. Michelle and Cardi B, hands down the franchise's breakout star was Joseline Hernandez. Argue with your mama, don't argue with me. Joseline quickly became recognizable for her eccentric slash risque style.
My name is Joseline Hernandez. I am a rapper, actress, a dancer, just an entertainer all the way across the board. You got me working hard, baby.
You're looking amazing.
You like my shorts?
Yeah, that's crazy.
What's up, baby?
In addition to her roasts, her one-liners, and her lack of fear when it came to throwing hands with pretty much any and everybody on the cast. It's safe to say that Joseline became a recognizable figure very, very quickly. I would say that she's sort of like, and I'm saying this because I see that they're both featured on College Hill right now. I would say she's kind of like an antithesis, so to speak, of like Tiffany Pollard. Because we never really saw Tiffany Pollard throw hands. At least I don't recall ever seeing her throw hands. I mean, aside from, you know what happened. Yeah. We won't speak about it. But aside from that, I never really saw her allow anyone to get her out of character to the point where physicality was involved. Now, obviously, Joseline, on the other hand, has sort of always been with it. I mean, always. She's always been ready to throw hands. It's nothing new. That being said, fans received her well despite her multiple fallouts with fellow cast members. Oh, hold on. I'm not recording my voice. With that being said, despite her numerous fallouts with cast members, and, you know, her on-again, off-again relationship with Stevie J, it was no surprise that Joseline became a star in her own right and also ended up having her own show. Now, while her show was not on VH1, like K. Michelle's and a lot of the other Love and Hip Hop cast members that do get their own spinoffs, her show ended up being on Zeus Network. And that brings us into season 1 of Joseline's Cabaret, which in my opinion, it was the worst season so far. You know, obviously season 4 is coming out soon, so we don't know what that's going to hit on, but I did look at the preview and I saw Daisy from season 1 and Yummy P from season 2? Yeah, season 2. So I don't know. I feel like I am hypothesizing that we may have a good time here. So the premise of the show, in case it isn't obvious by the name Cabaret, because even though the entire first season, Joseline had to say Cabaret at least 45 times per episode. Luckily it was a short season, but still, the word was said so much that we could not possibly forget that this was a cabaret.
Cabaret.
What the f is a cabaret? We don't have cabarets in Miami. We have strip clubs. That's what we have.
Cabaret.
But essentially, she wanted the girls from the cabaret, or that she was selecting to be on the cabaret. They were pretty much all former strippers, and she wanted to grace them with an opportunity to advance to something better, something a little more sophisticated, and perhaps even more financially secure. However, the topic of payment did become an issue in season 1 later on. So we have the cast members: Daisy, Chastity Grade A, Jay, and Lucky. Now, season 1 wasn't like the worst season because of the casting per se. I would just say it was like the lack of motion. Like there was nothing going on. Things would be getting dragged from one episode to the next. Like premises would be getting dragged that really didn't have to be dragged for that long. It's what Joseline's Cabaret Ballsy is. It's just stuff getting dragged. There's no real resolutions. There's no significant growth, I don't feel like, with the girls, because there was a scene where like Lucky was oversharing and I don't want to call it oversharing as in what she was saying wasn't important or she just needed to shut up, but I would say oversharing because the reactions afterward, right, they weren't like positive.
She's awake! Weak.
Oh my god, I'm forgetting someone. Sapphire. My goodness, I am so sorry, Sapphire. How could I forget you? So Sapphire, she wasn't really in the beef, but if you had to say that she was, she would be closer to being on the side with like Lucky and Jay, because she didn't like the whole, you know, these girls are basically bullying these girls. Like, that wasn't her thing. She was not into that at all. She didn't stand for it. She didn't like it. And so she was like a neutral kind of like cool auntie sort of figure. And it's crazy because you know she's like an auntie sort of figure, but then she got in like season 2 and wanted to tell Boss Tech, because you older than me. Let's move on. Hey y'all, I went to the gym. I'm sorry. I didn't go to the gym, but I did work out, I guess. Looks like I got a nose ring. Red leather, yellow leather. Back to the, what was I talking about? So, right, season 1 was slow. We had, you know, not a lot of character development, not a lot of character growth. And then on top of that, I don't know how intentional that was, because Chastity, I remember her saying in season 1, the only season that I've seen her in thus far, you know, that they wouldn't push more positive storylines because she was an entrepreneur, and that was the part of the show that, you know, they weren't really giving us, or that they weren't really explaining. And so, you know, let her tell it again. It's because they would prefer to push a certain agenda. And of course, I do find that odd, seeing as Joseline is an executive producer, and the executive producer has a great deal of power. Yeah, the executive producer pretty much determines what's marketable and how to best go about marketing it through the medium of whatever they're producing. With that being said, I don't think it would be, you know, unmarketable for more positive images to be put out there. I don't think that we have any shortage of certain images. And so there is an obvious discrepancy between what is mainstream and pushed and what remains kind of more underground. So, you know, hey, maybe season 1, Joseline just wasn't sure what direction she wanted to take things in, and we ended up with just a very bland experience. Okay, it is now time for my final thoughts. One thing I should have definitely prefaced this video with is the fact that Joseline is going to get those streams for her music. You may not be into Latin hip-hop, but after an entire season of ingesting her music against your will, it grows on you. It's like musical Stockholm Syndrome, if you will. All in all, I would say it isn't necessary to be familiar with Love and Hip Hop Atlanta or the first season of the Cabaret for you to enjoy seasons 2 through 4, especially seasons 2 and 3, which were the most actionable from what I have viewed because I haven't actually watched season 4 yet. I also don't want to fail to mention that Joseline can be an extremely polarizing figure, and that her behavior, while endangering to both herself and others, is also what rescued her from another form of exploitation. The fact of the matter is, it takes more conscious effort to denounce a lifestyle that remains capable of feeding you. Oh, and please do not enter my comments saying how as a race we need to ingest more positive programming, because I know for a fact most of my viewers are not subscribed. With that being said, I'm Andrea from Hello Drea, and as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Until next time.